of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We only changed one number.
Good morning, everyone. Tom Terry is ill, so obviously chairing the meeting this morning. Tom is with us on speakerphone, so we will proceed. First of all, we have a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion approved.
Second.
Question? Comment? A couple of those items on there involve motions. I just want the record to reflect that, and Dan and I agree that they aren't involving motions unless they've been revised on that.
When we're approving the agenda.
Yeah, that's on the agenda.
Okay, I know that. Okay.
Mr.
Is there a
President,
second to the agenda?
I'll second it. I have a discussion item, and that's one modification under the Advisory Committee Appointments Elections Committee. We've not received an application paperwork from Ms. Muncy, so if you would take her off, please, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. Moving on, as far as President's remarks go, Tom, like I say, Bill is on speakerphone, but he's having difficulty time speaking, so we'll just move on from that into the General Manager's report.
Good morning. They just printed.
Here, just give it to me.
All right.
I didn't mean that to sound that way.
No,
It's just like an order.
It's okay with me.
Sorry.
Okay. You have a report for the month? It's short. Just want to go over some basic information just to keep you guys abreast and updated on what's going on. I don't know if you noticed, North Gate was recently struck
Again.
and the repairs have been already made. Fortunately, last time we had ordered an extra upright or laminate material, so we had that, so we didn't have to wait. Sometimes it takes 3 or 4 weeks or more to get the pieces in. We had one additional, so we were able to get that repaired relatively quickly. New Yacht Club hours, I know that I mentioned it, but I just want to make sure I reaffirm that with everybody. It's Friday, yes, sir.
On the bridge, did you order another laminated piece?
Yes.
10. There's a 10.
It will be hit again.
It does.
You know, that bridge has been repaired 38 times
Is that right?
from being hit
Okay.
38 times over the last 40 years.
Do we recoup
What's the
any of
life
that money?
cycle of
Yeah,
what
that's
hits
what's
us
been
allowed?
said. We do-
As long as we order that
Just so everybody knows, it is covered through insurance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whoever strikes it,
Yeah.
you know, we file the insurance claim against their auto insurance.
Is it putting up a do not hit sign?
Yeah,
With the eye blinking.
yeah.
You would
By the
think
way,
the yellow
Mr.
and black
Governor,
stripes would be enough,
Yeah.
since they are 6 inches wide.
Accidents happen, so
Yep.
we did get it repaired quickly. Amount of leaves picked up, just wanted to point out, we are done with the leaf collection process. Okay, no more vacuum, no more bags, no more truck running around picking them up. We had over 1,000 tons of leaves picked up, so a whole lot of leaves picked up this year. Some dates to remember, I just want to make sure I point it out to everybody. We have the IRS court case coming up. It is scheduled for, at this point, 25th in Richmond, Virginia, 9:30 a.m. For oral arguments. Okay? Just making sure everybody's aware of that.
And that's really it, isn't it? I mean, the oral arguments, both sides get a chance to make their oral arguments, just like in Supreme Court proceedings, and that's it.
Correct.
20 minutes for you, and 50 minutes for you, and so
We have town hall meetings coming up for the Yacht Club, Country Club, and I wanted to make sure I put those dates out there for everybody. It is on the calendar that Tara passed out. The first one is on the 24th, which we'll discuss that evening, the Yacht Club. The following Tuesday is the 31st. We're going to discuss the Country Club. And on those dates, just from a time perspective, we're identifying those 2 Tuesday evenings one's just for the yacht club, and one's just for the country club, and the whole purpose is to keep the meeting focused on that topic for that evening. And then we'll do a Saturday, which we'll discuss both. We also have the public hearing on the budget coming up on the 21st, and that's here in the community center as well, 10 a.m.
Oh. To Saturday, it should be 10 a.m., I'm assuming, instead of 10 p.m.?
Yes. Yeah.
Where does it say 10?
It's it. She's right, on the town hall meeting.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you, Terry.
I kind of like the 10 p.m. meeting,
Do you?
actually, yeah.
Right after cocktails and dinner.
There you go.
Exactly.
Come over here. We can make that work. Waste Management's on site again, just as a follow-up. They were here a few weeks ago. They were at the community center for 3 days and at the park. They're coming back at the end next week, actually, end of the month, 26th and 27th. They'll be here. And on the 28th, which is Saturday, they're going to be at the park. And what they're doing is they set up shop and they're helping folks that can't, or just for whatever reason have struggles signing up online or have questions, they can come in and see the folks. Okay, so I've got the numbers for the month. We're actually looking pretty good for the month. If you run down the right side, admin's positive, variance, public works is positive, public safety is approximately 3,200 in the red, but that ebbs and flows a little bit. Recreation still running very strong at 122. Aquatics has improved a little from last month, and therefore reducing the year-to-date variance to 23. Golf improved slightly this month. Numbers were, we had some warm weather, so we had some folks out golfing, so there was a little bit of an improvement. Thieves Club stays positive. We won't see any change in that. And the Yacht Club was slightly positive to budget this month, therefore reducing the year-to-date variance. Total is 32,000 positive to budget for the year in the operations side. Now, since this comes up, and it's not something I'm going to cover each meeting, but I did want to talk about bottom line. A lot keeps coming up that operations isn't the only thing that impacts the financials. So operations is one leg of the three-legged stool, as everyone's heard the term. New capital is the second leg. Third leg is our debt service. That makes up our total financial picture. That is what's related in the month-end financial reports. I don't typically cover those separately, the new capital and debt service. I cover the operations side of the house. But if you look at those, if you add those all up year to date, we're still running approximately $29,000 positive to budget.
And Bob, those other two items are typically small and on budget, typically, so.
Except when they're not.
Except when they're not.
Except when they're not. So, for example, we're at 91,000 actual this month. It seems to grow as opposed to the budget of, I'm talking about administrative departments, replacement. So, I mean, basically, we're 100%, more than 100% over budget on that. I'm just wondering when that ends. I don't know where it comes from, first of all. I mean, I know where most of it comes from, because we discussed it last month.
Bill.
Now there's a difference.
Recognize. Dave, with all due respect, we're talking about new capital here. And I said it's typically on budget. You're addressing something totally different, I believe.
Yeah,
You're addressing not new capital, but rather replacement capital.
sure.
This is what affects the assessment amount, and not that contribution to the replacement fund doesn't affect it as well, but what I'm addressing here is new capital, and typically it is on budget. What you're talking about is, of course, in the back of our monthly financial statements, addressing replacement capital by department, analysis of where they are with respect to budget. It's always included in the monthly financial statements.
Yeah, well, I think both of it need to be addressed. If we're overspending on, in the replacement reserves in a specific area, and in this particular case, an unauthorized expenditure in the replacement reserves. Let me point out that what you're talking about is new capital
Right.
is $21,000.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's, okay, that's cool, but,
It's
you know,
2,000
on the
different
other
budget.
hand, what I'm talking about is $89,000, and $47,000 over budget. I'm just saying that we.
No,
need
no, no,
to-
89 is the actual compared to 45.6 budget.
Well, actually, then this is mistaken.
Well, the variance is 43,653.
Well, I'm looking at admin.
Golf, that's golf.
I'm talking about admin
Yeah.
department.
Okay,
Only
admin department. Got it,
I
got
mean,
it,
there's
got it.
others.
Okay.
But you
Yeah,
see,
I
the
know.
problem thing was, we know what the others were, although technically, we didn't prove the cost either. That is to say.
Which
that
ones
we
were
grabbed certain
unapproved,
things.
by the way?
What wasn't approved was a $89,000 expenditure, capital expenditure, replacement reserves to redecorate or refix or do whatever you want to call the administration building.
I don't, no, I think, I recall, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I recall you reporting to us earlier on multiple occasions that the cost of that was in the neighborhood of 35,000.
Correct.
And it was not all at one time, as I believe you explained it to the board, that you undertook this project and it was under the 15,000 threshold requiring board approval, correct?
Correct.
But you advised us that you were doing it. We didn't specifically pass a motion to approve an amount less than $15,000. As I recall, and also, when you got into it, you decided that there were other things that needed to be done besides what you had set out to do, right? For example, the carpeting, as I recall. Where'd you go?
I'm right here,
I'm trying to find out what's going on.
No, I'm trying
So
to
in
find
any
out what
event,
your focus
Dave,
is.
it's a good question, okay, but it's been answered and we'll try it again, but let Bob respond here. Well, my recollection is he reported to the board that various things were being done in the administration building. The threshold was under the board approved limit, but the board had no objection. One of it was to modify the offices to give more privacy, as he explained to us, for the billing and collection aspect of it. When he got into it, he discovered the carpeting in some areas really needed to be replaced, so a separate, I think, decision was made to replace the carpet as part of the overall project. That added perhaps another 14,000 to it. And so I think I just don't think it's right to say that it was unauthorized expenditure requiring board approval.
I think it's
That's all.
exactly correct.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
there was no estimation of the project. I remember very well the briefing that Bob got us. I mean, I think I still have those little hand-drawn things that shows how the front was going
Right,
to be.
right. Give us a
And this is
layout.
the- I'm gonna do a
Right.
couple things here and something.
Right.
Okay, now, let's go back to the numbers, though. I'm reading off of the capital summary period right now. Okay,
91.
our actual for administration, there was 2,310 new, 89,288, okay, 91,598 total, 44,300 budgeted. So we had an over expenditure of $47,298. I'd like to know what that
That's a
was.
legitimate question.
If it wasn't for whatever you want to call it, renovating, rehabilitating, remodeling, I mean, a significant amount of work was done on that building. If it wasn't for that, what was it for?
No, I understand. Legitimate question.
Well, what do you think, Sophie?
And, well, thank you.
I'm addressing it to the general manager, but that's okay.
Okay.
If you know the answer, tell me.
Well, the variance is, I'll leave it to the controller and the general manager, but the 47,000 is the variance which you're inquiring about, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Does general manager control have the answer to that?
I do actually.
Okay.
31 approximately, and I'll get the exact numbers. I've been over it multiple times, but I'll do it one more time. For clarification purposes, there's about a $30,000 that I can talk to very definitively right now, was carpet and replacement of some of the furniture. They're the two biggest items we had over there. Totaling, carpet was 14 and change, furniture was around 14. When we went to make some rearrangements and do some of the work over there, we found behind some of the desks, and again, I went over this, some had worn clear down to the concrete, so replacing the
I remember
carpet
that.
made sense.
I remember that, yeah.
When it came to the replacement of the desks, we had 25, 30-year-old desks that quite frankly, when we started moving, started to fall apart. We replaced them. They're the two biggest ticket items. I've covered it in multiple times. I'm not sure why it continues, but I guess I'll answer it every month if I'm asked. They're the two biggest. I'll have to find out what the difference between the 30
Okay,
and
perhaps you wouldn't have to answer it if you would simply provide me, or any board member that's interested, a list of the expenditures that comprise that admin. Yes, the controller has it, the controller has it, I'm quite sure. And if I don't need it at this meeting, you can give it to me after the meeting, and if I look at it, I'll see what they are, and then maybe I won't ask the question next month.
In fact, we have 12,000 need to be searched out somewhere. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
Just for the record, this is not a new condition. This is the same situation that appeared last month in the monthly financials. We as directors, Dave, and you know this, get this, and it says at the bottom of it, if you should have any questions regarding details, please give me a call.
I believe that well, first of all, if I have any questions regarding detail, I would have had to call Bob at midnight last night, because I received this at what time did you stop by? But Bob very kindly saved me a trip over to the admin building and dropped one off at my house on his way home, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, we understand where you're at. Let's move on. Let's move on.
Prior month statement had the same thing.
Let's move on.
There's always was the last word.
Well, I got the last word. Let's move on.
All right, okay. Questions, that's it, that's all I have for the GM.
Very good, Lee.
report.
Okay, moving on, special presentation with regard to golf ring, Bob.
Okay. Golf has been a subject that we've gone over over the last 4 or 5 months. Your question was what happened to our golf course. We had middle of July, end of August, early September. The board had challenged me to go take a look, figure out what was occurring. We've had several meetings on it. The board requested at the September board meeting that I come up with details of what actually occurred with our course. In October, we went into a very detailed discussion of all the conditions that impacted us, from mechanical, weather conditions, all the different components. In November, we made recommendations on how to fix the course on a more permanent basis, how to cure it. December, we had a follow-up presentation from Casper Golf and USDA as to their recommendations. And then today, what I want to make sure that everyone was aware of the fact, this is our last chance, if we intend to do any green work this year, any significant, to have any significant impact for this season, we need to make that decision, and it's going to have to be made in the next few days if we have any chance of doing the work prior to this season. Some of the things I've asked about several times is who we are as a golf course, which helps impact whether we move forward with a green project or not. What we did was I sat with Billy Casper once again, and we went over some details discussing the types of courses, so we have an idea of how we're compared, what type of course we actually are. We came down to 4 identifying type of courses: premier course, high-end daily fee, moderate daily fee, and municipal course. Kind of the 4 if you try to break them down by category. Some types, and then we went back and started looking at some courses that fit under each, just to give some perspective on it. Congressional, I guess it just died on us. Okay. Congressional, Baltimore Country Club, Potomac Farms, Columbia, and Bully Rock would be considered premier courses. High-end daily fee, Bayside Resort, Links at Lighthouse Sound, Bay Creek, Rum Point, Lake Presidential, which is in Upper Marlboro. Just give a breakdown of the types of courses. What's considered a moderate daily fee, Queenstown, Golf Links, Swan Point, PB Dyke Golf, Whiskey Creek, and Blue Mash golf courses. Again, you golfers are going to know far more where they are and what they're about than I do. Municipal courses, Enterprise, Pulse Neck, Rocky Point, Diamond Ridge, and Eisenhower. Just kind of a breakdown to give a benchmark of where these courses would fall in. What we're recommending, once again, is replacement of the greens. That's a recommendation from Billy Casper Golf, USGA, and myself. If you go to page 7 of the report, if we move forward with green replacement, we broke it down into 4 sections just for an make it clear on what would occur. Green replacement would consist of site preparation. Basically, they shoot the layout of the existing greens. They start mobilizing their equipment to bring it in, and then they initiate the permitting process. Again, I bring this up because if we have any chance of moving forward with the green project, we need to do it now if we're going to have time to accomplish these and get started on the work. The next step would be the demolition and the earthwork. That would basically be, once all the equipment is mobilized in here, excavation of the green mix, gravel layer, and then finally the drain pipe, which is at the bottom. And then they would start to rebuild the greens. They'd install it, they'd reverse it basically, installing the drain piping, the gravel, and then the appropriate green mix. And the last piece of the puzzle is to purchase and lay sod. Now, the reason I wanted to break that down and bring it up today is I need board guidance on what the next steps are going to be. If the board decides not to take any action, we're not going to be able to complete the green project this year unless we completely disrupt the revenue stream for the course for this season. That's it.
Thank you. We're now open to public comments. Are there any public comments? Yes, sir. Please state your name, your address, and what you have to say.
Hey, how you doing today? Ernie Artis, 37 Quarterstaff Place. I'm here to talk about the golf course today, and not only that. Am I standing in the right place, Mr. Cameraman? Can you hear me? You can't hear me, good. Maybe I'll stand over here. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Ernie.
The golf course, it's in trouble. Golf is a dying business. As I said last month's meeting, 21 courses in Myrtle Beach closed. That article was in Sports Illustrated, last year. There's been many articles in the Wall Street Journal. I have one here for the USA Today just yesterday, about golf business, all right? I'll leave this here for you all to read. Just give you a brief one here. The Paulson Company, which is a large hedge fund, they own golf courses in Hawaii, Phoenix, PGA West in La Quinta, the big golf course down in Florida. Anyway, they're filing for Chapter 11. They've lost more than 2/3 of their revenue in just recent years. And they own this hedge fund owns 5 golf courses, Wally in Hawaii, Biltmore in Phoenix, Doral in Florida is one of the ones they own. They're all losing money, I'll leave this here for you all to read if you care to. We got a golf course here that's membership is down 50%. You got a golf course that's practically dead. About 7 years ago, you had somebody write a nice article in the newspaper about closing the golf course and keeping it for green space. And I can't remember who wrote that article, but I believe it was an ex-director, And really and truly, this is the time to do it. Close it, shut it down. Keep it for green space. You're talking about spending millions of dollars just on the golf course, not counting a new facility building, on a business that's dead. Baby boomers don't have the time or the money to play golf. They don't want to play. You got any kids? My kids are 45 and 42 years old. Golf is the last thing they think about, Everything has changed, and there's a good article there talking about change. There's a company in Atlanta that talks about soft amenities, When you look at the word amenity in the dictionary, it talks about pleasantness and attractive. Well, as a homeowner, I don't find anything pleasant or attractive about supporting a golf business that's become a huge burden on the community. Now's the time to shut it down instead of putting money in it. You keep it for green space. You create walking trails, bicycle trails. You keep the building over there for everybody to use for meeting space, support groups. There's nothing wrong with that building. It might be 40 years old, but there's plenty of 40-year-old buildings standing all over the great state of Maryland. Just throw some paint on it. But you're talking about spending possibly $3 to $7 million on the golf course, not counting a new building, and you don't even have the cash to do that. You're borrowing money to do things, and sooner or later, our home association dues are going to get hit with another one of them $150 uppers, or even more. And what for? The bottom line is, many of us who live in modest housing in this community, and that's probably at least the majority, our homeowners association represents 50% of what we pay for our county taxes now. What do we get for that? Is this association going to take care of us in our old age when nobody else wants to? No, but the county will. Okay? That's just one of the things. Do you providing schools for our children and grandchildren? No, but the county and state do. Are you providing special education for the mentally challenged? No, but the county and state do. So you see where this is going. Our dues just keep going up. And you want to use the word and hide this business of a golf course under the word amenity. It's not an amenity. It's a huge burden on the community that needs to stop. Also in this article, out in Colorado, there's a club out there that has 4 golf courses. Last spring, they only opened 1 out of 4 because they claimed they lost $6 million in the year 2010. The homeowners are now suing that association because their dues went up. And that's what's going to happen here. At some point, the people are just going to get all fed up and sue you, or sue who's ever sitting here at the board, or they're just going to stop paying their dues. And that's what you have now. You got a lot of people that aren't paying dues just because they're fed up with the way the community is being ran. You want to hide the golf course under this word amenity. It is not an amenity. What was once a terrific, great idea 42 years ago, the time has passed. The time has passed. Golf is dying in America. This is one of many articles that's in newspapers all over the country, okay, for the last 5 years. Craig Norman's golf business is down 60% since 2005. He was honest and revealed that. But he don't care because his company is a very diverse worldwide company, so he's not worried about it. But he also said it's never coming back, just like there's people in here are saying it's not coming back. Things have changed. The way people spend their money and do for recreation and leisure time has totally changed. And if we're going to stay stuck in the past and want to hide this golf course under the word amenity, then we're going to see our dues flop up in the air, and at some point everybody's going to wake up and say, what are we paying all this money for? And then you're going to have a revolution here, just like they have out there. Smile, Bob. Go ahead and smile, but it's going to happen.
I'm a happy guy.
Yeah, I will be happy too.
We all have a copy.
Thank you, sir.
But the bottom line is, we need change here. And if you don't change, you're going to find more and more people just not paying their dues.
Thank you, sir.
Is that cutting me off politely?
Well, you're starting to repeat yourself.
Yeah,
sir.
yeah, yeah, okay.
Well, I get 5 minutes, right?
You had it. You had it.
Did I?
Thank you, sir. Okay, thank you, sir. And thank you for your time and your research. Any other public comments? Yes, sir. Name, address.
John Roder, 186 Sandy Hook Road. I'd like to thank and compliment Bob Thompson. I came before you in recent time and talked about a unsanitary situation that was affecting all of Ocean Pines. Mr. Thompson took what I considered to be the appropriate and professional approach. He developed a good RFP. He processed it, and I believe he has selected a very competent professional organization for our trash pickup. I look for good things to come in Ocean Pines over these next years. And I would like to thank, I know that in many cases Mr. Thompson carries a big load. He does have broad shoulders, I'm sure. But I would like to thank him here in public for the work that he has done on that particular project. and the board of directors as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay, seeing no further public comments, we'll move on to, the media press.
You didn't mention how much the greens would cost. Kind of an important item.
We're going to get to that, I
Yeah.
believe, in old business.
We get a report on the redoing the greens, and we don't even mention how much they're gonna cost.
Gonna do it.
We're going to do that, it's on the agenda, under old business.
I can answer. If that's all right? Yeah. But I've reported several times, it's about $900,000 to replace the greens.
Thank you.
And
That's all 18, right?
yes, sir.
Yeah.
No,
And
thank
we
you.
are looking at multiple companies,
you.
we're getting bids now to see, to, get closer to whatever the actual number's gonna be, but it's around 900.
And where does that number come from?
Well, we had the McDonald and Son bid that was presented,
Okay, so that's based on the McDonald bid.
yes, sir, but I have some others in at this point, and I'm trying to get a few more before I give it to the board to make a final decision.
Okay, so the,
I know, I'm getting bids in, you know that.
Okay.
yeah, well, that's what my question
Not to
was.
see.
Was it on a single bid, or was is this an aggregate of multiple bids? I mean, so it's a rough estimate, but you're not seeing bids that are at, like, say, 1.5, or you are seeing bids.
No,
that
you're right, you're right.
or-
No, the average is about 900,000. From the
Okay.
4 that we have in so far, I'm expecting 2 more today.
And the swing is not substantial.
From the low to the high.
Swing, again, we're ranging from $1 million, $52,000 to, what was the low so far? The low was 879 approximately.
Okay. That answers my question.
Okay, and one more, and that's the McDonald bid that we all got a copy of.
Yes.
When they put their estimate together, they put their estimate together on replacing all 19 greens.
Yes.
I submit that the 19th hole green does not need to be replaced as part of this package. It's only 2 years old, 3 years old, something like that.
Any other questions from the media? Okay, we'll move on to old business. Pete, you're up.
I distributed this morning a revised package. Rather than substitute individual pages, I just redid the whole package, and you see revised up in the upper right-hand corner in blue. That substitutes. There's only one change, and as I suggested in my email to you last night actually, that Bob was still working into the evening last night trying to further develop the cost estimates and so forth. So what I did consistently in the materials is increase what had been approximately $850 to the $900,000 that Bob just mentioned a moment ago. And that's based on the information that he has to date. It's a better estimate than the $850 that I'd used previously in the submission. Again, apologize for the lateness, but as you kind of get an impression, Bob has been working diligently with Billy Casper Golf and others to try and bring this together and have specifics. So anyway, let me then deal with the first item here, the Lifetime Golf Membership Program. That is a separate and distinct motion with several attachments. And again, it's new in this sense that the board authorized previously, and I've attached the motion that we passed at the November 15th, 2011 meeting, which made no commitment whatsoever. It was in response to Bob's presentation to us that he referred to a few moments ago about the condition of the course this summer, what's the problem, what do we do about it, how much does it cost to fix it, et cetera, et cetera. When he reported to us at the first meeting, rather lengthy meeting in October, which had to be carried over to a follow-up meeting, he covered at length that the condition of the golf course and solutions. He also put forward the creative idea, which none of us, I don't believe, had heard about prior to that time, about a lifetime membership program as part of the funding solution for that cost of that project. We then passed that motion non-committal, simply saying, yeah, go out and test the waters and see how this plays and meet with golfers and see if there's a willingness. Bob and I have done that. We've met with quite a number of golfers to explore their interest in the program. Frankly, out of the initial meetings, we revised the approach. So what Bob Thompson had reported to us initially as an idea, very creative idea, was very simply 40 people times 25,000 equals $1 million done. Well, it's not quite that simple. So we recognize that age does matter, and in this community in particular, age matters. So what we did was we restructured that program. So, Mr. Acting President, I don't know whether I should make the motion now and then have discussion, or whether the board would prefer a little bit more background on it. I know we've all been through this. It was 3 months ago, literally, that Bob came to us with the assessment. We more recently had it at the December 20th meeting, on the Greens part of it, the Billy Casper. I'm going to get to that with a second motion. This motion simply deals with getting authorization from the board to formally present to members, and others, by the way, members first, but a lifetime golf membership program as outlined in the accompanying materials as one means of financing approximately half of the total cost of the Greens project. So in round numbers, about $450.
Why don't you go through that information first?
Okay, thank you. Again, none of this is new to us except for the fact that if you look at attachment A, it sets forth what you've not seen before, because again, we've developed that. And I must say thank you to the various members of the golfing community who took the time to meet with us. I think each meeting was an hour and a half on average, some longer. And we met, I think we had 9 separate meetings with small groups to review this. And out of that came a number of good questions, a number of good amount of feedback, which resulted in some of the modifications to what we were thinking initially. Anyway, the attachment A that you see here, purpose to provide partial funding to rebuild 18 greens, Dan, not 19. It is 18. I originally was thinking 19, but it's not needed for the 19th. The change to the $900,000 approximately. The plan, in exchange for one-time membership fee, they get all privileges. As Bob has outlined it to the members with whom we met, it covers not only your greens fees, unlimited green fees, but also golf cart program, PIP program.
What is
the
PIP?
Player Improvement Program?
Thank
Dan,
you.
you might be
Thank
interested
you.
in that.
Thank you. Yeah, I am, given my handicap.
Me too, by the way. Golf club storage and clubhouse locker. That PIP program is something that Billy Casper has adopted and brought to us, something they do on a national basis. It's about a $15.
What are you reading with?
Attachment A.
Dave. Billy, your hand. Second paragraph is the plan. See, under the first paragraph, I just talked about the purpose.
All right.
Second paragraph is plan. You got it?
Got it.
Okay. See the PIP program in the third line?
Mhm.
Okay, that's where we are. Golf club storage, locker, as well as a unique buyer discount program available under. This is part of a program that Billy Casper Golf has, essentially allowing the members to purchase merchandise at 10% above their cost. The fees are age appropriate, so to speak, and as you see, the 70 and over category is $12,500. In the 60s, 60 to 69, 17,500. By the way, we have extra copies of this for members of the press if you want it, okay? 50 to 59, 22,500, and under 50, under 25,000. The number of memberships available, and I think this is key. We want to limit the number, obviously, and the numbers that you see here, 10, 12, 6, and 5 respectively, totaling 33, is what the proposal is. So it's to be filled on a first-come, first-served basis. Once each category is filled, there will be no memberships available, further memberships available in that particular category. Other provisions, non-refundable. We had pushback and questions like, well, you know, what if I pass away next month? Well, it's like No. Does it apply to husband and wife? No. Can it accrue to the household? So if I move to Florida, it stays with my house. So, so we really wrestled with, and we gave consideration to all the various things that we were teed up for us, frankly, by the people with whom we met. In the end, we settled on this, and it seemed to be acceptable to those with whom we spoke. And thus you see the essence of it here. It's only available to individuals, not transferable, and will not survive the individual member. A simple legal document will be executed to document the contractual relationship between the association and the lifetime member. And we emphasize simple. And we envision a one page, but who knows, once you get a lawyer trying to do a one page or maybe 2 pages, I don't know. We haven't gotten there yet. We need board authorization to move forward. We weren't going to invest the resources and time and energy further. And we actually concluded the last of our individual small group meetings right before Christmas, understanding that we had enough, I think, expression of interest. We did scale back the original thinking in terms of how many people might subscribe to this plan. And so what you see here is less than what we originally went into those discussions being hopeful of. So the other aspect of this thing is that when you reduce the number, it does provide for those maybe a little incentive to get in there on a first come, first served basis, because once the 6 spots in the 50 age group are gone, they're gone. It also minimizes the loss of revenue. Obviously, these people are prepaying golf for the rest of their life, and we didn't talk to a single one of them who knew exactly how long that would be. So in any event, there's a risk here, obviously, and the people who have expressed an interest and made tentative commitments understand that. No formal commitments have been made. Nothing's been signed. I want to understand that. What we're asking for here is the authority to proceed with this. The next page simply does the little dollars calculation here. If all of the available positions were in fact subscribed, this is what it would raise, $595,000. Again, we can do the project of $900,000, half of which is $450,000. That's something less than this 33 number here. And it can be a combination. We can have, one category fully subscribed, another half subscribed, whatever it is. The objective is to pay for half of the approximate $900,000 cost of the Greens project. And the last page, attachment B, is very simply what we had passed before, just as a point of reference. And again, I think the key thing there is that at the end of the motion it says the support expressed herein is not a commitment of the board to approve any plan at this time, as the actions described and encouraged above will result in the general manager recommending a specific plan or alternate plans for consideration by the board. So that's what we're doing here today. That motion was passed November 15th, following the October meeting where he presented not only the conditions of the course, the reasons for it, and recommendations, but also put forward this lifetime membership proposal. So here Bob is giving his presentation of what needs to be done. I think he's outlined it, that we need to make a decision now. And the companion proposal I'll speak to in a moment, but let's deal first of all with this. We're coming back to the board as was requested with a specific plan which we've tested and we think will fly and is a viable plan. So with that, Mr. President, I would make the following motion. Okay. And the motion would read as follows, and you all have it in writing. The Board of Directors hereby authorizes the General Manager on behalf of the association to offer to a limited number of individuals lifetime golf memberships. The funds generated by the sale of these memberships shall be used exclusively to fund a portion of the cost of the golf course greens project to be separately approved by the board. Attachment A to the motion sets forth a summary of the terms and conditions of these memberships. And I would make that motion.
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, I'll open up discussion. I have a question. In my reading here, previously, as I understand it, the idea was to do half the greens, 9 of the greens, at fiscal 2012 budget, correct?
Yes,
And the remaining 9 out of the fiscal 2013 budget.
correct.
Okay. My question is, I have a couple questions here. In your attachment A here, everything's basically completed by May 31st. Approximately how long does it take? Do they? project-
2013.
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Approximately, how long does it take, or are they estimating how long does it take to redo 9 greens?
Paul, I think you're in a better position than I am to answer that, although I can.
Yeah, the estimates right now that, and again, that's part of what we're reviewing as the estimates are coming in. Basically, if you just using off the top of my head, the time frame, assuming we were to start immediately, just time-wise, it takes 2 to 3 weeks, upwards of 4 weeks, site work, prep, begin mobilization. And again, I had this broken down on a prior slide. It takes about 4 weeks, and again, it could be off by a week, to do the excavating. Another couple weeks to replace the green components, the drainage, the gravel, and the composite, and then lay the sod the following week or two. Basically, it puts us into the mid-April time frame before we can actually start golf, if everything lines up.
About 2.5, 3 months.
About 3 months off, right?
Okay.
Depending on weather.
Okay. The reason why I need that information leads into my next, my final question. The project is supposed to be done by May 31st, 2013, which is in the fiscal year 13 budget. That's only 31 days. 31 days from May 1st, the fiscal year starts May 1. So
No,
we're gonna- so-
I'm right. That fiscal 14 starts then.
Correct, okay.
Yeah.
That's
Stand
calendar
back,
day.
calendar days, okay.
May
Okay.
1, 2013 is the beginning of fiscal 2014.
Correct,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah,
Answer my
that's what it is.
question. Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
yeah,
okay.
good.
Peter,
Yes, sir.
all these groups and the different golf folks that you've talked to that have shown an interest in this, I've talked to a couple people, and the only hesitance that some of them have is they're not sure what the heck we're gonna do.
Right.
Whether or not we're going to just can the whole thing or start a step at a time and try to improve the course for the people that are here. And I think that's something that we really do have to, we have to kind of decide on what we're going to do before other people are going to decide on what they're going to do. I wouldn't throw 25 grand or 15 grand down if I didn't think the course is going to be there in 2 years or 3 years.
Yeah. Well, I think
So-
that's why that 2013 date is there.
Yeah.
It's there out.
So, I
We
mean,
don't-
have you gotten, what kind of feedback have you gotten from these people that you're talking to?
I'm glad you raised that, Ray, because very definitely that was a concern expressed by some, that they're concerned about the follow-through or the commitment of the association to complete the project. If they were asked to pony up money and we started down the road and fine, we used that money to do 9 holes, and then we decided, whatever board may have been in existence then, to retroactively change the commitment of the prior board, they'd be stuck. And that, so we addressed that. And one of the provisions you see on the term sheet there, I don't think I spoke to it, and I should have perhaps, but thank you for asking the question because it's pertinent. Other provisions, the membership fee is non-refundable with the exception that if the association fails to complete all 18 holes of the Greens project before May 31, 2013, the member shall be entitled to a refund equal to the lifetime fee less the stated annual cost of various individual owners for the year. So in other words, they get the money back less, of course, a year's dues for whatever it is. But yes, that definitely was, and frankly, this approach that we have here, and we're putting before the board, hopefully for approval today, takes that into account, right? Again, in the early meetings, there was a trust element,
Yeah.
to be sure here. The way we're doing it this way, and this is one of the reasons, once we reevaluated the potential, if you will, for the lifetime membership program and scaled that back to cover half of the cost, it reassured those that were being asked to contribute that the association is going to proceed and use the first 9 holes, as we've indicated in the proposal, or actually it'll be in the next proposal. The next proposal speaks to spending, committing right now, so that they can get on with the work, utilizing association funds and then using the lifetime membership funds for the next 9. So that's very different than we originally envisioned and overcame some of the objections that we had to people who were unwilling to commit to anything or write a check with the uncertainty involved. So yes, indeed, it was a factor.
Pete, and I'm assuming the folks who's ponying up the money for this lifetime, that money will be put into a, for lack of a better term, a lockbox.
Escrow or
reserve
something. Yeah, yeah,
fund.
yeah. Yes. Now, it won't be around very long because we'd be then committing with the contractor to get started with the second 9 holes in a similar time. But we actually talked about, and Bob, again, knows more about this than me. He met with the Billy Casper folks and others, by the way, that he's talked to. You may recall even some discussion about doing 9 holes this spring and then 9 holes in the fall. And frankly, that was a choice that was available to us. So do it before this, the prime season this year and do it after the prime season this year. In the end, though, it was decided the better course would be to not lose the revenue associated with this fall's package play and outside play, or run the risk of doing so, because it would involve closing it and depriving ourselves of some of that revenue. That would be a double whammy in a sense. You would lose some of the spring and some of the fall. And frankly, one of the things that we're trying to do here is to shore up the financial viability of the golf course operations by doing what we're doing. And that financial viability is so dependent upon outside revenue that we didn't want to disrupt one fiscal year on both ends of the golf season with construction work. So therefore, it was decided a better approach would be to shove it into the next golf season, but within the same fiscal year. So following the same pattern, if you will, that would be applied to this year if you approve it, will be applied next year, but again within the same fiscal year next year. So first 9 would be financed now out of this year's budget, association funds. Next 9 would be financed by the lifetime membership funds and also be completed within that fiscal year. So that's how it would work.
Any other discussion?
Yes, lots.
Sure.
From a calendar standpoint, you just confused me, and
Okay.
I want you to unconfuse me.
Sure.
McDonald's original proposal started this month
Right.
and ran through the end of March to do the front 9 or the back 9, which are the front 9, and then started in September and
Right.
finished in February of 2013 to do the back 9. Is that general timing still what we're talking about? You're talking about
No.
being complete by May 31, 2013. That's next year, next May.
Yeah. The answer is no. Let me, okay. Let me try it again. The idea, the intent, is that?
Keep going.
Keep going, that's just echoing.
Okay.
We're hearing 2 people.
Dan, you're right. The original thinking was to do it right now and have it ready by sometime this spring, right?
The front, yeah, 1/9.
1/9, exactly. And then in the fall, do the second 9, right?
Right.
Okay. And to conclude that, say in the, well, it would be after the season, right?
Mhm.
October. They have to do it in such a way where the grass can grow, right? The alternate thinking and what we put forward here is a different timetable in that it moves it back so that the second 9 would start in January of 2013.
And finish by May of
Exactly.
2013. Got it.
Exactly.
Okay, so you're not
Yeah.
cutting out the fall.
Right, exactly. And that was the key element because, as I said a moment ago, depriving ourselves of the increased revenue from outside play on both before the season and the end of the season, we wanted to avoid that. And this plan that I think Bob, and again, Bob worked with Casper Golf and others to hash through this, and it seems like a better approach.
All right,
Does that clear it up?
that clears up the dates and,
Okay.
and how the funding is going to fall, for me at least. Second question, you've been quite specific in terms of the elements that will be offered as part of this membership in your motion, the material that goes along with your motion and is therefore included in it, I would assume.
Yes, it is.
When will we see a specific specimen contract for these memberships? I would like to see exactly
Before you sign it?
what a member is going to sign before we walk away. And I don't know when that's going to
Right.
happen.
We haven't even started it yet.
Okay.
But the answer is, of course. And we'd be happy to have you sign up as well.
Well, I know that. I'm very aware of that.
No, the answer is
And the
yes.
minute,
We
the
haven't
minute
begun
that I
yet.
turn 70, we'll have a chat.
But that hasn't begun yet. That will, though, begin immediately after.
Well, I'm assuming that if we approve this today, you're going to start sales efforts this afternoon or tomorrow morning.
Absolutely.
And I'm also assuming that
I've got a
in
list.
your 90 days worth or almost 90 days worth of conversations, you already have a few people lined up who are definitely interested in this if the board goes with the
Absolutely.
green repair
And that was part of the
project.
process here, to measure the tentative commitments, and we do indeed have.
Well, that was in conjunction with the motion, your
Right.
last motion that you made. That's great. You're not, and haven't talked to what that interest level was. Are you prepared to throw some numbers on the table, or do we just assume there's interest?
10.
Okay. The next area that concerns me with this is the projected effect on annual golf revenues. Because by getting 33 people to buy into $500,000 plus worth of lifetime memberships, we are taking prime people who would be annual members under our current plan
Right.
off of our plan. And essentially borrowing this money from them. I mean, we can play semantics all day long,
they're
but that's
prepaying
what
the-
we're
yeah,
going
they're
to
prepaying the
do.
golf.
We're going to prepay memberships, so we're borrowing the money up front. That's 33 memberships down from 303, which is where we are right now, I believe. We're also going to take the golf course offline for a significant part of next year, calendar year, golf year. Which means in my head that knowing Ocean Pines golfers who are members, this could be a problem, and we've talked about in previous meetings finding alternative solutions and working with alternative golf courses to make the membership still viable. I'm concerned that we're going to lose more members than you think we are with this program, and that's going to impact our revenue stream from the golf course. I don't know what you've done to anticipate that, nor do I know if you put together a projection on what that will be. I would be very interested in hearing answers to that area.
Let me try.
It's all yours.
The answer is exceedingly good question. The lost revenue, obviously, is part and parcel of what we buy into here. Most of the individuals that we would sell these memberships to, including those who have already indicated their willingness to do so, are individual members with cart packages. And that's $1,200 for each. That's $2,400 per year that we have now. While the membership itself includes value above that $2,400 because it's the locker, right? It's the PIP program, it's the merchandise, et cetera, essentially making it about a $3,000 value item, okay? But currently, those members typically have they don't have a locker. They probably don't have the PIP program. I've looked at it. So the estimated lost revenue is approximately 1,200 times 2, or $2,400. I don't know. Say round numbers, $2,500 per member. Okay. For every 10 members, then we lose 25,000, don't we? If we have 30 people sign up, we've lost, in exchange for the $500,000,
$300,000.
$75,000 a year for 30 members.
For X number of years. Right.
Right. Now, for a 50-year-old, that expectancy is quite different than a 72-year-old. And frankly, we have, I forgot, 4 or 5 in the 70 and up, 5, I think it's 5, in the 70 and up category. And those are individuals who are in good health, and not only are they making a bet on their ability to play golf, they're also recognizing the contributory element here. And that's something we talked about. This isn't just let me do the numbers and see where, they're trying to help out their association with a problem with its golf course. But specifically to your question, the maximum amount here would be in the range of $75,000. Now, what do we get? We get the $500,000, that gives us 9 greens, on top of the 9, so we have 18 now, really rebuilt, totally rebuilt greens. I can tell you, because I've sat in a couple of meetings with Bob, the folks at Billy Casper are very excited about the prospects for generating additional play, both within the community and outside the community, from that investment. And frankly, Dan, that's what this is all about.
Mhm.
We saw a tremendous uptick in the revenue and the rounds played in the spring of this year. You know that.
When
It's
the
been
course,
reported.
when
May,
the
June,
course
and
was
July.
in better condition than it has
Absolutely.
been in years.
May,
Yeah,
June,
I'm
and
well
July.
aware of that.
Absolutely. It was like, the rounds were up like 30%, okay? Revenue was up 20%. We were on a glide path that would have closed the books for this year substantially ahead of budget, and maybe even a profit in golf operations. That all went to hell with the decline in the golf course condition, the lost play, the next 3 months were a disaster. Now, having said that, the last few months has come back to some extent, and the play's been good. But what we're really trying to do here is not only solve a long-term issue with the golf course, but also to generate the sufficient amount of revenue required to make that golf course operation profitable. And I know our general manager believes that is not only possible but probable. I don't know, that's my view. I'll let him speak for himself.
Okay, you have any other questions?
Okay?
Ken?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is one that I just want to make sure that I'm really clear on. You included a clause in here that is, I'm going to call it an out clause for want of
If we don't follow.
better
Right.
language.
That's good.
But the out clause for everybody sitting at the table, the way I read it, works both ways. And that's that we can approve this lifetime golf membership sales program today and start selling it with a contract. And if we don't perform by the 31st of May on 2013, we owe people money minus what they would normally pay in annual membership fees. It sounds to me like a very low-risk program both ways. And the reason that I say that is that based upon the rather lengthy meeting and special meeting that we had with Casper Golf and their staff, there is an alternative to replacing our greens, as we all know, that Rusty's already working on, and that is to deep till and reseed and refertilize and really work those greens to bring them back. And he was confident at the meeting that in fact he would get the greens back, but he said very clearly, that the risk factor was absolutely the weather. Our greens, the way they're currently constructed, are much more weather sensitive than new greens would be. That's what we're trying to beat is the weather here. So I am right when I say that if we approve this golf membership program sales, what we're doing is selling 33 people on the idea of a permanent golf membership if and only if those greens are improved under another program, which you're going to take up next.
Right, because as you described at the outset of that, those comments, yeah, they have an out. If we don't follow through, they have an out.
But we have an out as
But
well.
we do too.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
my
we do
point.
too.
It's a sword that cuts both ways.
Can I ask what
Thank you.
allowed is, just so I don't have to come back to it?
Well, I'll let Dan answer.
Well, if we have not delivered by May 31st, 2013, all of these 33 memberships, assuming they're all sold, are abrogated. It's gone.
Correct.
All each purchaser
They have the right.
They have the right to abrogate it, and I frankly, when we wrote the contract, I would make that definite. I wouldn't let you get by with the right to. It would be, it's done. It's no longer a contract. So what they've spent is their membership fees, which is part of Pete's terminology in here, up to that point. And they would then be, like any other potential member, able to choose from there forward if they want to continue their membership.
Okay, here's my question now. But when that happens, assume it does, then we will have spent $450,000, which we now no longer have.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
how does that benefit us? In other words, we've spent the money, and this plan goes away. We spent
We've spent $450,000.
And have only done half the golf course, so we still have to go get another $450,000 from someplace else.
Mhm.
So so that was my question, Dan. How is that a win-win? What's our win in that? I don't get it.
Well, we're under, you're putting two motions together, and I'm trying to keep them separate here. Okay, I'm trying to keep the membership discussion separate from the Greens motion, because I think the Greens motion has a lot more to talk about in it than the membership question
I'm only
does.
talking about the outcourse.
I don't think that the membership issue personally is much of a risk for either potential members or for Ocean Pines, in and of itself and on the face of itself. We're not taking chances here. We're selling memberships at a fixed price down a period of time.
I see your point. by
You see
separating.
where I'm going?
You're saying we can collect all the money and do nothing, and then just give it back.
Give part of it back.
Well, yeah, but
The
if we
part that
did-
isn't- the
if we
part that
did
isn't
nothing
used.
by say next May, we'd probably give all of it back,
Well,
because I've already paid it.
Here's the other end of that conversation, and that's that if the board does not approve the next motion, this motion is moot.
Well, the most important thing, the overriding thing with
Right.
all this, is that the board needs to approve, or the board needs to make a decision whether we're going to,
Mhm.
to make a decision to improve the greens.
Exactly.
So if we make the decision to improve the greens, to do what is necessary to do to the greens, then we're agreeing to pay for all of it from Jump Street.
Well, I would have liked today, and I understand the time constraints, but I would have liked today to have seen the one-page or simple specific contract that was going to be sold to these golfers. But I'm not, it's not the end of the world, because Mr. Gomsak's language in here is quite specific.
But
So
Yeah, and Dan,
I can live with that.
what I've attempted to do is to put into this the elements that would be in that one-page
Mhm.
contract. I mean, it's going to be very simple.
No, that's what I'm saying. You've got the points in there.
Right,
I
right,
just,
right.
I'm just bad ethnic background. I'm sorry. I kind of like to see.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Yeah,
Yes.
I do.
Okay, Dave
But
is
Ray
next guy up.
first.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to ask Dave.
You're going to answer.
Did we not, as a board last year, set aside $600,000 for the repair and replacement work for over at the yacht club that went into replacement funds that we have now decided is not going to be used for several years until we make decisions of what's going over there? And if that has occurred, is it possible to utilize some of those funds for this?
I would, without agreeing specifically to that, I would argue that there is money in our replacement funds where it is less than clear what
Yeah.
we will actually do with them,
Yeah.
which is
Which
another,
is, that-
another
yeah.
whole discussion. Okay, so that answers your question.
Yeah, okay.
Dave has the floor
So
now.
that's another thing. Okay. First of all, and I'm trying not to repeat what Dan said, but I agree with almost all his questions. This particular motion, setting aside, presumes the need, the necessity to replace the greens. That is to do a major green replacement. Okay, if I can just say as a person, as a long-term golfer, I would love to see those greens replaced. Really love it. Okay, but as also a long-term golfer and seeing the condition of the course vary back and forth for years, I also know that they don't have to be replaced. There is another alternative. Now, it's a high-risk alternative. And no, let me back off. It's a risk alternative. It's carrying the same risk that we have had for the last 40 years in seeing the ups and downs of the course. Okay, it could happen again next year. Could it have an impact, or a real negative impact again? Yes, it could. Might it not? Yes, it might not, too. It purely depends upon whether or not we have good weather or not. Okay. But all I'm saying, though, my point is that this motion, okay, presumes the passage of the other motion. I think Dan said that in different words, okay? So until we know whether or not what the next motion is going to do and whether or not we have to carry that, this is kind of a moot point. Now, let's assume, though, that we fast forward, we say we somehow or other, the next motion gets passed, and we say it is a necessity and we do have to put in the money, and now we say, is this the right way to collect it? So it's two separate questions, right? Is this the right way to collect it? And Dan, Ray brings up a point. Yeah, isn't there other ways? Don't we have money that we can apply to this? And certainly there are other ways, And what's the problem with this particular way? Well, if you just look at, simple-minded stuff. We said $2,500, and after Pete explained, I was using $3,000 because Bob used it before, but $2,500 is probably more reasonable. And, $2,500, and we're getting $25,000, $125,000, okay, from 5 golfers. How long does it take to get for them to use that money up? I mean, that is to say, we're losing $2,500 per golfer per year, so that's $12,500 each year. So 10 years, I think if my math is right, 10 years, we're basically getting, we've taken out a loan for $25,000. They paid off the principal on the loan in 10 years. Am I right, Dave? No, actually.
No, you're not, Dave.
10 years. They paid off the principal of the loan in 10 years. And after that, they're collecting interest on the loan for the rest of however long it takes. And at a rate of what? 2,500, 10% per year? I mean, why is that a good deal? Why is this better than going to a bank and borrowing the money at a relatively low interest rates that we have right now?
Maybe it wouldn't be necessary to do that because the assumption is, and they proved it last year, with 30% increase in outside play, and that's what they're going for. We're not going to be able to rely on the membership to increase, to take care of this, more outside plays coming in. Would that not be a factor?
That would be a factor in that we could repay the loan from a bank.
Oh, I see what you're talking about.
But there's also, Dave's points are very well made. It's also based on the assumption that the improvement of the golf course will not generate new membership or more outside play.
Right.
So if you increase 10 new memberships over 3 years, 10 new memberships a year for 3 years, that's 30 memberships, if that happens. And it's like you're marketing any business, you improve it to bring in more business.
And Casper's already said that.
That's
their
an
intention.
issue.
That's which we don't know.
But that's the issue, though, Bill.
Right.
Two issues. Okay. One, which we haven't even talked about,
Right.
is it necessary to redo the greens, or is there a reasonable alternative that we should accept in this place? Okay, that's one. The second thing is, given that we decide to replace the greens, what's the best way to finance it? And my question is this a reasonable way to finance it? And I don't think so. I mean, we're talking about that $12,500 that we're getting from those 5 golfers is 10% of the.
Dave, I have to interrupt you. Who are the 5 golfers you're talking about?
The under 50.
I'm just
The under
taking the
50.
under 50. I could
Oh,
take,
right.
I could
Oh,
take
okay.
any
Okay, I
group.
mean, because, yeah.
And I think it might get worse.
It's 33.
It might, yeah, I know, but I'm taking the ones.
You're taking
from
five.
that
You're taking the youngest.
Right.
And anyone.
The
Okay.
And
the
by the
greatest
way,
amount to gain.
the worst loss, I believe, and I think probably if there's enough, any golfers in the room would agree with me, is the 70 and over. Whereas they're only paying $12,500 and 10 of them. You know how many 80-year-old golfers we have in Ocean Pines? Are you kidding me? I think,
I'm not taking him on the sales calls.
I mean, no, I mean, I'd say go for it. I mean,
Yeah.
of course you'd go for it. I mean, you know, depending upon your particular circumstance. My point is not that it's not a good deal for the people who are going to do it. It's a bad deal for Ocean Pines. And I think it's not the right way to finance a project. Be straightforward. It costs this much. Here's where we're gonna get the money. It's gonna come out of your assessments, okay, for sure. It's gonna come out of your assessments. Now, it'll come out of your assessments and no repayment of a loan, or it'll come out of your assessments and withdrawal from the capital reserves or borrowing from the Grace Act. But one way or another, it's gonna come out of your assessments.
Dave, it would be much easier to not have to sell any memberships. No question about it. Okay? What Bob put forward was a creative approach that had a key element here, and still does. And it's a departure from how we've looked at things in the past, I think, as an association. And to some, it's radical. It is saying to a particular group, that is the golfing community, or those who are interested in playing enough golf, we're looking for you as a group, or as individuals from that group, to finance part of the cost to bring our golf course up to where we believe it should be. As opposed to dipping into the reserve funds or borrowing monies to be paid for by the entire association, this is in essence saying, all right, we're going to pay for 9 of the holes through association funds, reserve funds. And the other half, we're going to pay through your lifetime membership fee. Now, we will give up revenue. There's no question about that. It's a fact. We will give up, if we get 30 members, at roughly $2,500 a year, as I said before, and Dan asked, $75,000. Now, that will decline each year as individual members cease to be with us or become incapacitated in some way, right? These individuals, I can tell you, we've met with them, and everyone has a different situation. Some it's health related, others they don't play enough, all kinds of things. But what they are saying is 2 things. Number one, I believe this will work for me because I'm at this age and I believe I'm going to play golf for 4 or 5 more years or whatever the number is. But recognizing that something could happen to the next month or next year and they never play golf again and they don't get their money back. Okay, so they're making it back. The other thing they're doing, as I said earlier, is saying in response to the request of the association, we have a need here and we'd like you as a member of the golf community to respond to that need in part by being part of this program if you're able to and you can afford to. That's really it. So the concept that was advanced was simply a participatory kind of paying for the Greens project.
2 things. And I'm looking for this word in my head and I can't find it. The first thing is I don't think these 33 golfers are going to be playing by themselves.
Right.
I'm assuming they're going to bring people with them.
Good point.
So there's revenue. And then secondly, I think that if we make these 33 golfers happy, what is it called? Something.
Multiplier effect?
No,
Something that equates to that
it's
or what?
when you do something and it's an unrecorded consequence of it's additional because they're having a positive experience. Yeah, it's gonna that positive experience is going to spill over, and we all know how everybody at Ocean Pines talks to each other. So I would assume that these 33 people, if they're happy with what they've done, they're going to tell other people that they are happy with the golf course and what they've done, which will help Billy Casper, and they've made such a big commitment to make it better. I'll think of the word eventually, but
Momentum
May
is
I
what
just
you're looking
respond?
for.
Huh?
Momentum is
No,
what you're
no,
looking
it's
I know what you mean. But Terry, what
it's a
you-
marketing term that I
Yeah,
can't think of.
I don't know the marketing term you're seeking either, but what I do know is, I think you've touched on something very important, and that is, if these people are satisfied with the direction that Ocean Pines is taking and willing to commit to risk their money, I think that is in fact a
They're
statement of
not going to
confidence.
diss it.
Exactly. That's a statement of confidence confidence in what they believe the product will be. As Ray said earlier, a statement about confidence in Ocean Pines itself to follow through on a commitment, right?
Yeah.
And so I think nothing but good can come from that.
That's 33
Also-
invested people.
Also, what
Synergy
this
is another
does,
word you could have used.
if we, as a board, if we agree to this, what this does, instead of taking, instead of association members who do reserve funds or whatever, paying for half of
yeah.
this, the golfers are paying for half of this,
Right.
which increases the pressure on Billy Casper Golf to increase play because part of their revenue income is based on what revenue they generate, the bottom line. So, realizing that these things are going to reduce over time membership, potentially reduce membership, is going to be more pressure on Casper or the incumbent.
Incentive.
Incumbent.
Incentive,
It will be incumbent or incentive driven for Casper that could do things to increase play there so that their bottom line doesn't digress because of the consequences of the membership play.
David.
Bill, respect, it is not true, it is not true that the association is not going to have to pay because specific members have pointed up the money. The association will pay. What the association is doing is funding an annuity.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and
Okay,
it's,
yeah.
and which is a form of
Investment.
loan.
Yeah.
So the association is funding this, and it is costing the association money in terms of interest. Once the principal's paid, it's pure interest, and you get nothing back for it once you use that upfront money. It's a bad financial scheme.
We're getting 1% now on that money, everybody knows that. right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, you know, more to the point, We're getting 1% on the money that we have in there now, which is a good reason for spending it, not a good reason for going out and borrowing more. But I mean, even if you're going to borrow more, borrow it in a straightforward way where we know what the interest rate is, we know what the term is, and we know what it's going to cost. This is open-ended. I mean, it could cost. and-
Open-ended in
and
what sense?
It's open-ended in that we don't know what the total cost of the association are gonna be. If each one of these people lived to be 100, they'd be enormous.
Dave,
But they're not going to, of course, but so what?
You don't know that.
we know,
I know.
we know what the maximum annual amount is, correct? We will know what the maximum annual lost revenue is. And I say maximum, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. We also know that that
Excuse me a
maximum,
second. Is that the lost revenue to the association or to golf?
the association, are one and the same.
It's 2,500.
Yeah.
One and the same.
But that amendment.
No, it's one and the same. So we start off in year one with 30 people who are no longer paying us $25,000 a year. They paid us $500,000 in the aggregate, okay? So we know day one, the maximum lost revenue is 25 times,
2,500 times 30,
right, $75,000.
75,000
Okay, fine.
a year. Yeah.
And we're not going to fill those slots as people become incapacitated or pass away. We're not going to replace them. So each and every succeeding year, there is the likelihood that some of those 30 people will no longer be playing golf and therefore would no longer be paying us that lost revenue that you're talking about. So we can quantify the maximum exposure to lost revenue at whatever the number of people is, and we're assuming it's 30, times 2,500. That is a fact. It can't ever get higher than that.
It can't ever get higher than what? $75,000 a year.
Mhm.
It can't get higher than $75,000
That's correct.
a year. So multiply $75,000 a year times 20 years. There isn't a category in here that couldn't work that way.
I'm not concerned about the 72-year-old 25 years hence.
You're not? Well,
from a golf stand. Dave,
you would
philosophically, look.
How about 10 years hence?
Fine. You know, you're right. There are other ways to do this. We could scrap this whole thing, say, bad idea, Mr. General Manager. Forget it. You people that have indicated that you're interested in it, go away. I happen to think it's a viable plan. It's creative, and I like the concept of asking a number of the golf members to step up here and help us out so that we don't have to take all of the money for 18 holes out of the association reserve funds. I like that. That has an appeal to me. Do I like making phone calls and arranging meetings and begging people? No, I do not. I'm willing to do it and have done it. But if you all say, no, that's a bad idea, we'd rather just take all the money out of the reserve funds, makes my life easier and Bob's life easier, I think.
Well, it gets us more to the next question, too. But I don't think this question can be answered until we get to the next question. I think that...
Well, there's 7 members of the board.
I think that, well, if that's right.
I think
Are there any other questions? Dan?
just one comment, and that's where you were going, which is probably the strongest argument here that nobody is listening to very carefully and should. And that's that the investment that we make, the gamble that we're taking down the road on how long these people are going to live who buy these memberships can be, we can call our actuary and we can go put some fairly close numbers on it if you want to. But the issue isn't the gamble on the money that it's going to cost us. It's the investment in marketing that we're making by getting 33 people who are dedicated to the course who are going to help us sell it. Because they've got a bonded investment, a vested interest in this course to keep it up and keep it going and keep the membership going. And I think that psychologically, I wasn't reading this carefully enough last night, but I think psychologically that's probably more important than anything else we're doing here today. And it still goes to the next motion.
Yeah.
So a vote on this motion is moot.
I think we need, I would ask that we call a question on this.
Question.
Yes.
I'm not ready.
Well, he's the chair, not me.
Wait a minute, you moving the previous question?
I would like to call the question, but
Is there a second to that? Seeing no second?
No.
Proceed.
is there more questions?
Okay, I understood, and Terry made this point too, and, but I think with respect, Terry, I'm close to the course, I think, you may know golfers and so forth. But here, and the same thing with Dan's point. How many people of the ones that you talk to are current members?
100%.
100%.
We only selected those to meet with.
So in other words, when we went out, and here's my point, Terry, when we went out and selected, by the way, you didn't pick me, Pete, I'm a little bit, but you know, I didn't get a call. But, so they went out and we picked 30 of the people who are most closely associated with the course, who have the greatest current interest in the course, who have remained members through thick and thin, who volunteer their time and their services to help the course, okay? And what your argument then is that somehow or another, by signing these people up for lifetime memberships, that's going to make them more dedicated people to the course. And I would argue that that's just flat out not true. They are already now. It's not new people we're getting, it's we're getting the ones that are here. And now I'm closed.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none? Okay, let's move on to get a motion going here.
Move on to what?
Do we have a motion here? We don't.
I moved the motion and it was seconded by Ray.
Okay,
Now, you're asking, is there a further discussion?
yes, any further discussion?
You open it.
Yeah.
If it's
See
open,
any.
it's open.
Or is it-
I'm done.
Well, I would love to respond to that, but I'm more about getting things done, so I will
Okay,
not.
Mr. Thompson.
Tom
okay.
may be saying something.
Tom, you saying something?
No.
Okay.
Is there somebody else on there?
Carol's probably in charge.
I Tom Terry. I want to be able to move things forward. One of the things I just want to put on the table is that, you know, if we went the loan route, loans aren't free. The average commercial loan rate today is 5 to 6%. So you'd be paying somewhere around $25,000 a year in interest payments to a lender to loan us this money. But to me, the more important thing is we have a group of doctors who are willing to stand up and help. And I'm all for that. I just wanted to add that I think they ought to get applause for being willing to step up and be a partner in all this. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom.
Let me respond. Tom, thank you. I got to tell you, there's no guarantee this is going to be successful. You know? So we have an indication of interest, but there's a lot of work yet to be done, okay? I feel good about it, but I feel apprehensive about it at the same time. There's no guarantee here.
Not to mention the fact we don't have a contract.
Okay, Pete, would you repeat your motion, please?
First one.
The Board of Directors hereby authorizes the General Manager on behalf of the association to offer to a limited number of individuals lifetime golf memberships. The funds generated from the sale of these memberships shall be used exclusively to fund a portion of the cost of the golf course greens project to be separately approved by the Board. Attachment 8 of the motion sets forth a summary of the terms and conditions of these memberships.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, let the record-
Tom Terry?
Tom,
Yes.
6 to 1.
let the record show 6 to 1.
Thank you. Okay, now we can move on to the next one. Which might be the other one moved.
Yeah, well.
Okay, shall we? Bill? Okay. Similarly, I'll give just a wee bit of background here. And this particular motion is regarding the golf course greens project that Bob Thompson spoke to a little earlier. And the background because we've all been through this, and again, this goes back, as I said earlier, to basically the summer, the problem we had. We asked the general manager, everybody had their own views on what happened, who was responsible, what we had to do about it, et cetera, et cetera. Clearly the weather conditions were adverse. We suffered more than most golf courses. There are particular reasons for that. Bob, to respond to the situation, brought in both CASPER representatives as well as other professionals to evaluate the problem and what had to be done about it. In fact, the negative effect had a somewhat adverse effect on our financial performance in golf for the year. It is estimated, and this has been previously reported, a loss of revenue somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000 this fiscal year as a result of that. Were it not for this, we possibly could have had a profit, but certainly a lot less than the projected loss, which in your budget books, by the way, the most recent forecast in the budget books was $229,000 combined with food and beverage for this year loss. So the background again is that representatives of the USGA were brought in. Bob had identified another individual, Hummel and Company, out of, I used to say Pennsylvania, but now I know that it's New York. Now I know, no, it's New York. Yeah, I learned. So Dr. Hummel came in. He was brought in as a professional to evaluate it. You all heard, and there's no need to go into it, they made the presentation at our December 20th meeting. Representatives Casper were here. Hummel was not represented, although his report was previously rendered, and Bob spoke to that on a couple of occasions. And the USGA Casper representatives. We had a chance to ask them a lot of questions. Clearly there were alternatives put forth. We all know what the problem is. It's the root system, the structure of the greens is such that being 40 years old, I'm not an agronomist and nowhere near as knowledgeable as Bob is now or others, but the fact of the matter is the water cannot seep down because of the layer that's beneath a certain level. Consequently, the grassroots can't penetrate either. So even the fixes that we did to the 3 greens by re-siding them at a cost of about $8,500 per green was always known to be a temporary solution. Some thought it was a permanent solution. We got those fixed. Not so. Because the same set of circumstances that caused the other greens to die out would similarly cause these to die out in time as well. So temporary solution, they're up and running. We still are faced with a long-term problem with the structure of our greens. The most, and I dare say, the language of this proposal suggests that there was, I believe, unanimity in the number 1 option. There were other options, but as we heard the various representatives and we all had a chance to ask them questions, the next best alternative was viewed as a distant second. A distant second. And that's a quote. So in any event, we've had the opportunity over several months to consider it. What this motion is asking us to do is to commit to fixing them, all 18 of them, 9 at a time, spend the money, get it done. To me, the risk is this current year, if we have a repeat in next golf season, and we can hope and pray, and we can, maybe the weather will be kind to us and we won't have the problem, but that's a risk that I believe is significant, or at least it's a risk that has significant consequences. Let me put it that way. A risk that has significant consequences. And if we have another situation like that again, as I say in the background here, we're probably not going to get a third chance with those outside groups, those package players. They were very appreciative this past year of Casper calling them and saying, hey, we have a problem. You probably don't want to come here. We'll find you another place to play. They were very appreciative of that. They built a lot of goodwill and loyalty. They will be back. If we have to do it a second time and say, same thing happened again, they're not coming back, I don't think, this year. And Casper believes this as well, that they will not be likely to return anytime soon. So that's the risk we run if we take no action, and that's the risk we take if we take a second best alternative. So this proposal puts forward a motion that authorizes the proceeding immediately so that we can do 9 holes, get them up and running just as soon as possible, capture some of that revenue this spring, have a full fall season, and I think the momentum will build, the word will get out that Ocean Pines is committed. As you all know, the trend has been and is continuing that the revenue is increasingly being generated by outside play rather than from Ocean Pines. Reference is often made to the fact there are only 300 golfers. We know that, but we also know that revenue has increased during this period of time. So anyway, that's the background discussion. I think we need to do it. We don't want to encounter another situation where we lose money this next year in buckets. So I will, Bill, with your permission, read the motion and introduce it. Okay. Motion. The Board of Directors hereby authorizes and approves immediately undertaking a project, friends, the project, in quotes, to rebuild all 18 greens of the Ocean Pines Golf Course. Specifically, the board authorizes entering into a contract with a qualified contractor to perform the project, which will consist of reconstructing and regrassing the greens on 9 holes in fiscal year 2012, such work to begin as soon as possible, and the remaining 9 holes in fiscal 2013 at a total cost not to exceed $900,000. The board further authorizes and approves funding the project costs utilizing funds from the association's replacement reserve account and additionally from funds received through the sale of lifetime golf memberships to individuals under a program separately approved by the board of directors, the goal of which will be to raise approximately 50% of the total project cost of $900,000. That's my motion.
That motion?
I'll second that discussion purpose.
Discussion. Dave.
Oh, yeah, 2 things. First of all, I gotta read the motion a little more closely to see what it is.
While Dave's reading the motion, does anyone else have any?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Dan.
couple of points. Number one, language. The board authorizes entering into a contract with a qualified contractor to perform the project. I understand from the general manager's report that the general manager is in fact pursuing bids on this project, but has not selected a bidder at this point.
Correct.
And authorizes entering into a contract with a qualified contractor to perform the project for, I'm assuming, of the full $900,000, is really what we're talking about today. I'm a little concerned, is a polite way to put it, that we don't have that contractor selected, we don't have a contract in hand to look at, and we don't have a specific plan to deal with, number one. Number two, I'm concerned about the idea of moving heavy equipment into the golf course area, given the fact that Clubhouse Road and its bridge are already suspect, which is going to be rather interesting getting to the back nine. I'm sorry, to the front nine. It certainly can be done, but it's going to have to be done with some temporary road work and probably doing a workaround on that one. You're aware of that. I don't know that that's being reflected in your bids. Third, the idea in the motion that sits in front of us that nothing is being done to these greens at the moment is incorrect. In fact, Casper Golf is working right now with what they have to correct the situation as best they can for next spring. Grass doesn't grow real well in 30-degree temperatures, as we all know, but it will start growing in the spring. Fourth, we talk about weather as being the principal factor affecting us, and it is. What we haven't talked about, and what we didn't talk about very much in that meeting with the golf guys, all of them, was the fact that our golf course was rather seriously damaged in the ability to irrigate this summer, because Casper was not aware of where our irrigation system was sitting and aerated too deeply and took out a bunch of holes, costing us grass and costing us playability on several of those holes. In other words, if we had had an irrigation system working, which we spent a lot of money on about 6 years ago to replace and rebuild, and had been able to get through the real hot parts of the season, yes, we would have suffered some cooking because of drainage on the greens, which we always do suffer from. There's a real neat black algae that starts to grow that makes my putting much better, thank you very much, but is there. So understand that although the alternative that has been suggested by Casper may be a distant second, it's one that has been in place and being used here for 45 years. So what you're deciding on is, am I willing to vote to authorize a $900,000 project without a referendum, and with several gambles kind of inherent in the package? It's an interesting, real interesting vote that we have in front of us here, and I suggest that you strongly think about it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah, I'll echo Dan's points with trying not to repeat them. We can characterize or quote somebody's characterization of a distant second, and to the thing that we've been doing for the last 40 years. It's, to me, it's, the choice between a Porsche and, I don't want to insult anybody here, but a Chevy Nova, which is a perfectly fine car. And the difference, okay, who wouldn't take the Porsche? Who wouldn't? Chevy Nova wouldn't, perhaps. It's what you can afford. Ultimately, if you look at this referendum, I think Dan's correct. This motion, we're approving a $900,000 project, period. Some of the funds, to the extent that they can be collected, will be collected by taking out a loan, perhaps in the form of an annuity, from existing members and paying them immediately back by providing them free services which would cost them otherwise, and which we won't receive as much. I mean, that money, no matter how you twist it, is going to come out of Ocean Pine member pockets. So is the 900,000. What is the risk? You know, who knows? I mean, if we have another summer like we did, the risk will be high, but not as high as it was last summer when Billy Casper came in here relatively new and not necessarily understanding everything that they need to understand about the golf course. I'm not criticizing them. Those things take time. They take time and some experience and learning. And Ocean Pines is a pretty unique course in terms of its location and in terms of the soil conditions and its surroundings. All we have in Ocean Pines is a lot of history. We've seen some up and downs, but on the whole, it's been a pretty good course. And up until this summer, it was a pretty good course with or without Billy Casper. I believe, I am most impressed with Billy Casper, and I believe that without doing these greens, and barring really bad circumstances, that they can bring the course back into playable condition and even good conditions. And they came in here saying that they could bring in package play and increase our revenues.
And they have.
We have 3 months worth of data, 3 months worth of data. That's not a whole lot, but it encouraged me, made me feel good about it. And I kind of believe that they will. But I think they also will with a playable course. And when they come in, they were not talking about replacing greens. They were talking about the course as it is. That was what they were basing their promises on. I mean, I'd like to pass this motion. I would like to redo all of the greens at work. I'm a golfer, and I know what it means. And would it be a long-term benefit for Ocean Pines? Yes, I think it would. But we're going to have to figure out, well, we're going to have to take money out of our reserves this year. We're going to have to take money and plan for money out of our reserves next year. I'm not going to even count the money we might collect. Because that way, that's just postponing, that's a loan. Okay, different ones to pay for it. And you know, we've got a couple of other things on our plate. I mean, how can we justify it when we've got a yacht club that has to have something done about it? I'm sorry, I can't, you know, it pains me not to be able to say, let's go ahead and do this. It really does. But I can't.
I guess the question I have, if the course is just in playable condition, is that going to generate the revenue from outside package play necessary to make the golf course as profitable as we need it?
Let me respond, Bill.
Anyway,
This is not about, this is the green project specific. This is not about the fairways. This is not about resumption of the golf drainage project that we put a 1-year stop to. It's not about that. This is specific to the greens. And if you run into a problem, golfers will not come from the outside to play golf at Ocean Pines. If you have a problem with fairway number 6 and fairway number 4, you can play around that. That doesn't shut you down. That doesn't throw up the barrier. If you have greens that are not puttable because of their condition, they have to be closed and put temporary greens as we did this year, they will not come. So let's keep in mind that this is not about generally the condition of the golf course. This is addressing a very specific, most vital part of the golf course. Far more important, in my view, and in Casper's view, the green project than the drainage. The drainage is important, don't misunderstand. But this specific greens project is a higher priority than that.
And again, readdressing my question specifically to the greens, it's just making the greens playable.
Puttable, yes, playable.
Playable.
Yeah.
Just making it
Yeah,
playable.
absolutely.
If just making the greens playable, is that going to generate the outside package revenue that's necessary?
Let me phrase it differently.
I'm not-
Without
I'm
the
not
greens
wrong.
being, no, let me,
Yeah, do it the
I'll answer the
reverse.
question. I'll answer the question. Without the greens being in good condition, you're not gonna attract that play.
Right.
We're talking about a risk of $300,000.
Is anyone else in golf that you have any thoughts on that?
I would answer your question very, very specifically the other way, and that's to say if the greens are playable, you will get the increase in revenue that you're looking for from Casper Golf. They've already had a year to prove that they can build our revenues. They're doing it, and they've done it when the course was in good condition. As long as the course is in good condition,
Right.
they're going to continue to do it. So I'll take that risk without qualm.
Just to add, I mean, I only go back to 1978 as a member, but I believe, and anybody can contradict me, we have never seen in all that period of time a hit on our greens like we saw this year. Now, whatever the circumstances were, I don't care, it's done. Certainly, weather is a factor, I know that for sure. But this was once in 40 years. Now, there is an argument, I'm going to give both sides of it, from Casper, that, yeah, but it was a building up type thing. And it was progressive. But the other side of that is that perhaps with the knowledge that they have now, they can help alleviate that too. It's not a cure. The cure is to redo the games. That's the cure. But on the other hand, to bring the course back into playable condition and basically, I don't want to say hope for good weather, I mean, just not have another disaster like that. I believe that Casper will bring in the play. I think they'll, and it will increase, and there won't be a problem. Now, if we can sort out what we're doing with all of our major facilities and all of the other things that we've got on our plate in some reasonable way, and our budget this year, we need to sort that out. If we can continue with the drainage program, if we can look at ways to couple the bringing in of equipment while we're in the drainage program with a gradual green replacement program. All of these things are you can explore right now within our current budget or proposed budget. And I just think it makes more sense to do that. Let's find out what'll happen. And yeah, we're taking a risk.
Yeah.
But you know what? I mean, once in 40 years doesn't strike me as being huge.
Okay, he took a little bit of my thunder. The last time something like this occurred, when they did something major out of budget. Now, we're still in the middle of our budget discussions. We haven't passed the budget yet. If there is any way,
This year's budget.
yeah, if there's any way to place this within this year's budget, I would be for discussing that in some way, shape, or form. The last time this occurred that really raised the stink was, do you remember? You were there. $1 million spent on covering the pool out of budget. I want to avoid that again. Do you understand what I'm saying? Can you follow what I'm saying here? I would like to avoid that again, if something like that happened.
Yeah, let me respond to that, because you, Ray, made the point earlier, and I think it's a very valid point. Yes, what this is asking the board to do is to approve an out-of-budget capital expenditure this year, right now, authorizing it to the tune of about $450,000 out of this year's funding. Okay. You made the point earlier. We have in this same budget a $600,000
Right.
approved item that is going to be deferred, the source from which will also come out of the replacement reserve fund. Okay. So we have a $600,000 budgeted item that's not going to be performed, it's going to be delayed, but in its place, we have a $450,000 unbudgeted item, funds coming from the same damn place. I submit to you that's spending $150,000 less in the aggregate than what was originally budgeted. So that's where the source of the money is.
Oh yeah, I mean that's very true. as long as you make that $600,000 and the need for it go away. Because
I said postponing.
otherwise,
Yeah,
it's only
I said
pushing it
postponing,
away. I know
for the
you
record.
said-
What is that?
I know you said.
For the record.
I know you
The
said.
pool,
Improvement
yacht
of the
club
pool.
pool
Yacht
project.
And I'm just
Oh, yeah.
emphasizing.
Dan, we approved that last year.
Yeah, I got it, I got it, I got it.
Yeah. It's there.
Terry?
I'm not a golfer or whatever, but, it seems to me that I'm hearing this conversation that the course is 40 years old, it's been, just packed on and packed on. I saw the dirt, I saw the lack of roots. And we have the same scenario with the yacht club, we have the same scenario with the country club. They're all 40 years old, they were never maintained correctly. And now we're getting ready to do it again. We're getting ready to say, okay, well, let's just fix the golf course instead of curing the golf course, okay? We're gonna end up again in a year having the same conversation. Okay, how do we fix it next year? You see what I'm saying? We've heard from a lot of community members who've said, why hasn't this been maintained? Why hasn't this been done correctly? We're getting ready to do the same thing, and I submit that we don't do the same.
Terry,
Yes,
if I may,
sure.
I mean, you're correct. You're correct. The right
Thank you.
thing to do is to replace those springs. But in comparing it to the other buildings, nobody's gonna fall through a hole in those springs. Building, they're not gonna be condemned. They're not gonna be safety hazards. because
Agreed.
Nobody would say that. We may end up losing revenues, potentially revenues, because of it. But I believe not in the same league as a necessity with the others. And we have to have the money. We have to have the money for
Well-
all of it. And if we don't raise assessments, there's no other way we're going to get it.
As I've said 10 times in the last 2 weeks, if we don't fix the greens, we don't need a country club.
Right. You know what? Well, Terry, you just brought up a pretty good point. It's not the point of this meeting, but you know what? We don't need a new country club.
That's right.
We need a reasonably good player. We have a good golf course.
No, I didn't say a new country club. I said a country club. If the golf course
don't
is
have a golf-
not
if we don't
a
have a golf
quality
course-
course,
Yeah,
what do you
yeah,
need a
yeah.
building for?
Well, we don't have a quality building for certain.
Well, that's true.
and
None
we-
of them are quality,
and-
because the maintenance has never been done on
and
them.
We've done maintenance on the golf course every year for,
And look where it got you.
after 40 years, we have greens that could have or should have been replaced sooner. I agree with you. But so what?
Say that again,
That's where
they should
we
have
are.
been replaced earlier, is that what you
I
said?
believe they should have been, most. of
That's an
course.
important point.
You know what
It
they,
isn't.
you know
We
what I
should have
don't
done
get?
it earlier.
One person at a time.
Dave, you know what I don't get? I know, you have said this many, many times.
Yeah.
You're very passionate about loving the idea of curing this golf course and doing this work. You would
Yeah.
love this.
Right.
I don't understand why you're not fighting for it harder.
You know, I can.
I'm not a
I can-
golfer and
I
I'm
can-
fighting
I can
hard.
answer that question. If I were purely, looking at it from my own personal self and what I do in Ocean Ponds, I would do that. But you know what, after 4 years on the board, I've sort of heard a lot of different people talking about it, including one gentleman who I don't necessarily agree with. As a matter of fact, I don't agree with. But there's a lot of different people. We have a broad spectrum of needs. It's our job to prioritize those needs. It's our job to be able to say, look, here's how we're going to pay for it. And simply raising assessments and collecting all the money that we need to do all of them isn't an option. We do have to do this. We had a procedure to do this. And the golf course wasn't in it. Now, can we put the golf course in it? Yes. And we can do it over the next few years, and we can figure out a way to do it. I believe we can, now that we know what it is. But just chunking money out of this year's budget is the wrong way to do it.
yes, we have decisions to make. We got to make one today. We have priorities. We have competing needs. I said this at the last meeting. What, in my mind, makes this particular priority stand out, differentiated from all the others, the yacht club, the country club, is the potential for profit from this investment. We've acknowledged, Dave has acknowledged it, Dan has acknowledged it, I've acknowledged it. Billy Casper has generated rounds of play and revenue. They've proven, without the golf course problem we have this year, that they can substantially increase the revenues. We need to continue that. In order to do that, we have to have a golf course that is able to attract that outside play, as well as serve our own members, obviously. But the outside play is necessary so that we can continue the quality product that we have. Now, I heard some dire predictions during the public comment section about the status of golf in this country. Ocean Pines has increased its rounds of play and has increased its golf revenue. And it did so even this year over the prior year, notwithstanding the problems. The revenues were up over 20% in the first quarter. We will end this year, despite all the problems, having to close the greens, having to call up package play groups and say, please don't come, our product is not worthy of it, we'll book you elsewhere. All those problems, we are going to end up, it's projected to have revenue of $1,266,000. That was a month ago, and I think we had a pretty good month. Versus the prior year's $1,216,000. So $50,000 more in revenue with all the problems. The $300,000 is not pie in the sky. It could have been achieved. So the bottom line is, we are talking about the need to make an investment in our own golf course, but in large part to attract the revenue associated with that. I dare say that the revenue that we need to spend, the expenditure that we have to make on the other facilities, while it'll have a positive effect on the community and the association's finances, will have nowhere near as dramatic effect as this $900,000 investment will have on this golf course. Ladies and gentlemen, we will get this money back in a few years. I don't think there's any question about it.
Right.
Yeah, one last comment out on that, based in the hotel business that I am over there, who gets groups constantly all year long for golf courses. Our golf course was never promoted by anybody until this past year, and because of that, and because of what it is, the increase has come along. That is their intention to continue to do that. So I tend to agree with Pete.
One last comment.
Yeah, this will be a real short one. But it's also a bottom line thing with me. I said 4 years ago, I wrote this little passionate newsletter about why I should be elected. And one of the things I promised is that I'm not going to pass an out-of-budget expenditure. And unless it's an emergency, it's critical emergency, unless you could prove, this economic value, which I think is far from done. And I'm not going to pass. I'm not going to vote on this one either. I'm not going to break that. I haven't done it in 4 years, and I won't do it again.
Would you consider a swap? The 600 for the 450?
I think you have to show that the 600 is not needed, or it's not going to be needed.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
I understand where you are. I understand.
One last comment.
One last comment, and this is, Pete, I don't want to be rude, but we're talking about $900,000 here. Let's don't kid each other.
This is
And I sat on a board a while back that did the same thing without going to referendum. And that hasn't gone away yet, regardless of the income potential or lack thereof. And it's arguable that that particular facility hasn't been run as aggressively as it should have been run and could be making a lot more money than it is. That's the problem that you face with this situation. I think that Dave's comment is, we're doing it this year, right now, under your guidance and leadership with the whole campus approach to all the projects that need to be done. But we haven't solved that. The only thing that's in this budget is a fair reserve for the yacht club at this point in time, plus the pool, okay? 2.1 million. How do I justify to the 2,000 plus people who put me into this chair the fact that we're going to go out and spend money on top of the budget that we already have that's going to spend a fair amount of money? I can't do that. I'm going to have to go with Dave because there's just no way in the world I can say, we got to spend this right now. It's an emergency situation. There's no way we can't do this. We can. There are alternatives. There are ways to get the course back into shape. It's a real good bet that we're going to get the kind of play we were looking for next year instead of a bad bet. It's not a sure thing with the golf course repairs. But we are already committed and have funded the drainage project. And although we discussed with Casper the idea of doing 1 or 2 greens at a time, and their argument was you're going to get inconsistent greens across the course, which is a very valid argument. It's still an alternative possibility along with an aggressive program to reseed, maintain, and rebuild the greens that we have and make sure that we run the irrigation system and operate the course properly, which we did not do last year. So, I'm sorry guys, but I'm out of this one. Thank you.
Dave, I remember that conversation 4 years ago, and I remember also agreeing with it.
Okay. We'll put this to vote.
Call the question?
Call the question. Tom, say something? Okay, you ready? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
4-3.
Pass.
4-3.
Pass.
Motion carries.
Okay, next thing is the pending action list. Does anyone have anything to comment on any of the items on the pending action list?
When do they come off? I know
They come off when the things have come off of it,
When
They
it's
can be asked-
completed, yeah.
They can be asked to
So
remove.
Carrollton Lane still has to stay?
Oh, yeah, that's done.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all
Sorry,
finished.
In fact, there was kind of a mix-up in how all this agenda
Yeah,
was put together.
yeah.
So,
Okay, so that's gone.
the one I submitted, it was removed, okay? So the only 3 items that should be on is the committee reports, the county commissioner's report, the charging documents, and the bridge status. Do you have any updated information on that? None? Okay. Move on into new business. Discussion, budget process, and procedure.
Well, Tom's talking.
Tom, no, just, yeah.
I really wanted to see whether meeting date next week, we'll have to get back together on the budget. And one request, and I know one request is that maybe we'd like to do that, and then they propose to first thing in the morning, so I'm wide open, so. You guys talk about what time you want.
Okay. Either Monday or Tuesday is available to me. Does anyone have a preferable day?
Tom's asking about getting together to talk about the budget.
Talk about budget next.
That's fine,
Public session Saturday, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
The following.
What day do you want to do it, folks?
Tuesday's fine with me.
Tuesday,
I
do you want to do it later in the day or in the morning?
I get off at 7. I do,
Yeah.
in the morning. It's better for you or later? What do you want, girl? If you want to do it in the afternoon, I'll come over
Tuesday's
there.
better.
Want to do it late in the afternoon?
Wait a minute, wait. It's the 24th, no, 17th. No,
No,
24th.
this,
24th.
Sorry, 24th.
By the way, that Saturday is not next Saturday, it's just coming Saturday.
Is this coming Saturday?
Tuesday afternoon is not so good, not late afternoon.
Okay.
But
Monday night?
more,
What about Monday night?
Fine, late afternoon.
3.
well, 3 o'clock would be late
Okay,
afternoon. Yeah.
Monday?
1 o'clock would be mid.
Well, then, we're trying to accommodate Terry, I
Yeah.
think, yeah.
Yeah.
Terry, what about late Monday?
Monday at 3 is better for me.
Dave, that work
Okay.
for you?
I'll come over at night.
Is that all right?
Monday,
Is that, will you get enough sleep?
Monday at 3, yeah.
Monday at 3, Tom.
Monday, Wednesday?
Okay.
Wait, hang on about the general manager.
Right.
What do you think?
No, I'll make
Bob?
Monday work.
Think it'll work better?
No.
And on Wednesday?
No.
Are you sure?
Monday 3 works.
Sure.
He said Monday 3 works.
Huh?
Okay, Monday 3 o'clock.
Monday, three?
Oh, but you guys are getting ready for Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
We can't do Tuesday.
Next item under new business is Dan, grant funding /
Tuesday,
tenant.
the IRS?
Dan, you got the floor?
You all together?
So-
With dates?
Someone has the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, Monday.
There is the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce is sponsoring a grant funding class to be held in Salisbury on January 24th. I would have withdrawn this motion had you said Tuesday for the budget meeting. But the point behind the motion is to get the board to approve the course expenses to let me go, which are $125. And the reason is that one of the things that I came to the board to do was to try to open up doors and investigate alternative sources of income for the board. Grant funding is certainly one of them. I don't know a lot about grant funding. I need to know a lot about it in order to sit down and talk with the state assemblyman and a senator that we need to talk with. So with the board's permission and approval of this motion, I will go to that meeting and learn something.
Steve?
I don't
Is
have,
there a second to
Who
the-
will-
Well, why do we need a motion, Dan? Why don't we just,
He has to pay money
do we need to authorize $125?
Well,
out of the floor, sure.
somebody does.
Yeah.
Well, it's in the manager.
Wait,
No,
wait,
I'm
is there a
not
second
going to the
motion?
general manager for approval of an expense
I'm
report.
in favor, I'm in favor.
Is there a second
I'm in favor.
motion?
I second.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Thank you.
you'll probably
The
find
next time I have a feeling now, I
Very
I'm
little.
bring it to the board.
would be to an HOA. That's municipal.
Unless we get a petty cash.
Okay, so CPI action, Bob.
In your file, you'll notice we have one violation for a floating dock. We tried to work, if you see all the contacts with the homeowner, what we're recommending here, and I concur with the action, is to forward it for our attorneys to, yes.
What is the particular, I saw the section numbers referred, what does that say about floating docks?
You have to
What-
get a permit, to put anything additional like that, you have to go through a permit process with the county.
Is that the real issue, that they don't have a permit? I mean,
That-
What is within our ocean
That is
policy?
the issue.
Okay.
But Bob, we
Well,
also.
we don't have a provision
didn't-
that relates to floating docks. It's a
I
question-
thought we had a policy that related to attaching anything to the bulkhead
Is that what it is?
without a
That's- yeah.
specific permit from
Yeah.
CPI.
Okay. Generally, we have a, little narrative description of what the violation is,
Yeah.
trash, or,
Yeah.
there's no, all it is section da-da-da-da-da-da.
Exactly.
See, this,
I didn't know what it meant.
yeah, this does not necessarily, if you go to court, qualify for what they call a floating dock. All this is it's a pull-on spot for a jet ski or a personal watercraft, and that might not qualify, but it is in the provisions that you can't attach
Okay.
anything to the bulkhead.
Okay, so that's the particular violation, is that
Yeah.
Yeah.
attachment to
No
To the
something.
permit.
bulkhead.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's not
Exactly.
safe.
Ro-
I
Robert's
just didn't
right.
see the narrative, all I saw was these numbers.
Flying
Yeah.
through the air.
Okay,
All right,
got it.
So I'm requesting the board authorize us to take the next step of action.
So moved.
so moved, second.
What is the next step of
Send it
that?
to the attorney.
Send it.
Okay, fine.
So it's been moved and seconded?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that leads us to advisory committee appointments. We have, ready for us to vote on elections committee, Diane McGraw and Laura Moon. Bylaws, Nelson Fenwick. and Clubs Advisory Committee, Food and Beverage Operations Carol Ludwig. We have a motion to accept those appointments.
Motion to accept.
No
Second.
objection.
Second.
No objection.
All in favor?
Aye.
So done. Okay, reminder, our next meeting then is next Monday, January 23rd, 3 o'clock, meeting here. Right here. Okay, do we have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So adjourned.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Feel
Go,
better.
go take your NyQuil and drink a lot of alcohol.